Action.
Okay, so today we're coming up to Purim, and we have many different halachot to speak about. But today I want to focus on one interesting aspect of Hilchot Purim, as well as speaking about a very interesting minhag that there was in certain communities in Morocco, that women would be more lenient on listening to the Megillah during the day. And although nowadays we strongly encourage that women make sure to listen to the Megillah at night and the day, not encourage, but actually that is the halacha. Nevertheless, it's interesting to note where that minhag evolved from, and nowadays should we adopt a more stringent view on this. But before we do that, let's discuss in general what is the obligation of women to listening to the Mikra Megillah. We know that women are not obligated in all the mitzvot. Women are not obligated in mitzvot aseh she'azman grama, which is mitzvot that are time bound. So why should Megillah be different? So the Mishnah says in Masechet Megillah Daf Yutet, Hakol ksherim l'kriyat Megillah chutz mechel shoteh v'katan. So everybody is obligated to Mikra Megillah. It mentions that means what ladies as well. Hakol ksherim would be ladies as well. That's what the Gemara in Masechet Erechin Daf Bet Amud Bet, Hakol chayavim Mikra Megillah, Hakol ksherim likrot Megillah li'atuye ma. What's that coming to include? Mai li'atuya. It's coming to include Rav Yoshua ben Levi. The Amar Rav Yoshua ben Levi, Nashim chayavot b'mikra Megillah she'afen hayu be'oto hanes. That women are obligated to in Mikra Megillah because they were also included in the miracle. She'afen hayu be'oto hanes. We find that this statement of Rav Yoshua ben Levi said also to obligate women in the Megillah and in the Haggadah as well, even though it's a mitzvot aseh she'azman grama. Afen hayu be'oto hanes. They were also involved in the miracle. We'll see why it's so important to know that was the reason.
What about Sukkot?
Because
there,
no, yeah, but it wasn't integral part of the miracle. Over here was the nes came through Esther, and the nes came through Esther. So afen hayu be'oto hanes. Now the question is like this. The question is the following: if they are obligated afen hayu be'oto hanes, does that mean that they have the exact same obligation to hear the Megillah as men? Or is it a lighter obligation? So if you look at most Rishonim, they don't make a distinction. They say that men are obligated to Mikra Megillah, women are obligated to Mikra Megillah, the same thing. It's the same obligation. Which would mean that women could exempt men from Mikra Megillah. If a man doesn't know how to read the Megillah and a woman does, which could be very common nowadays, we have very educated women nowadays, and a woman would be able to read the Megillah for men. So that's a discussion we could have. Maybe she's just. Some say that just reading the trup, the nigun, the ta'amim, that's not really called a song, right? Because we see that women would be able to read the Torah for men if it wasn't the problem of kavod hatzibur. So we see that that's not so much of the issue over here. It's more of a bland. It's not really a song. It's more of a bland reading. So the question is the following. That Rabbeinu Asher, the Rosh in Masechet Megillah, brings the opinion of the Bal Hilchot Gedolot, one of the Rishonim. And he says like this: O Bal Hilchot Gedolot pasak she'anashim enan chayavot ela b'shmi'a, aval kriya ena motziya nashim yedei chovatam shekriya Megillah ad sheyishmu nashim shemuchavim b'kriya. Says even though women are obligated to hear the Megillah, they're only obligated in the shmiya, in listening in the Megillah, but not in the Kriya, not in reading the Megillah. And therefore, since men are obligated in Kriyata Megillah, women cannot exempt men. That is what the Bahag writes. Now, let's focus. Even though most Rishonim don't follow this opinion of the Bahag, what does that mean? Women are chayav in the Shmiyah, but not in the Kriya. What's this distinction between Shmiyata Megillah and Kriyata Megillah? So all of the Acharonim have their deficit would be a problem. Have a very fun time with this Bahag, and I'll mention to you a few different approaches that the Acharonim say. There's the Marcheshet. Marcheshet was one of the great Geonim in Europe, and he writes in Siman Chav Bet the following. He writes that there are two aspects in Mikra Megillah. There are two components that you try to fulfill when you read the Mikra Megillah. There's the aspect of reading the Megillah to wipe out Zera Amalek. Yeah, because you have a chiyuv of Zachor, and Haman was from Mizera Amalek. And when we read the Megillah, we are really remembering how we eradicated Amalek. So he wants to suggest that the Bahag understood that there's a chiyuv of Zechirat Amalek, and then there's also the halacha of being mefarsem the nes, of publicizing the miracle. So there's really two aspects. There's the eradicating Amalek and publicizing the miracle. Now women, according to many Rishonim, are not obligated in wiping out Amalek. So this week's parasha is Zachor. Many poskim say that women are not obligated in Zachor. They come to synagogue anyways if they don't, but that's rather new minhag. Throughout the generations, women wouldn't be obligated in Amalek, up to a point that I heard from my Rabbi that his father-in-law, Rabbi Yashiv, understood, was poseg, that you can't take out a Sefer Torah especially for women to hear Amalek. That's not enough of a purpose. You can't take out a Sefer Torah just like that, and then women to hear Amalek, they come to synagogue and hear it, but to take out a Sefer Torah especially for them, you shouldn't. Nowadays, people are lenient on that, but I'm just trying to bring up a point. Up to what degree do we say that women are obligated in Amalek, and really the halacha is that they're not obligated in Zechirat Amalek. So it says the Marcheshet, women are not obligated in Zechirat Amalek, but they're chayav to publicize the miracle. Publicizing the miracle you can just do by hearing. It's not a mitzvah of kriya. Kriya is Zecher Amalek. You have to read from the parasha, and that women are not obligated in. So therefore, men are obligated in Kriyat Megillah because they also have the aspect. Besides the aspect of publicizing the miracle, they also have the aspect of Kriyat Megillah. But women are only obligated in Shmiyat, in listening to the Megillah. So far, so good. That's the Marchesh. And that's why he says, the Bahag says, you're only obligated to listen. Women are only obligated to listen because they only have to fulfill the second component, which is Pirsum Hanes, which is publicizing the miracle. The Stipler in Kehilot Yaakov says similar, but he says another component.
Listening is not considered Zechirat Amalek?
So he says no. In order to fulfill properly the mitzvah of Zechira, you have to have a chiyuv kriya. You could listen to somebody else read, but you're not chayiv in the kriya that you listen through somebody else. You're chayiv in the shmiya. So then the Stipler writes like this in Masechet Megillah Siman Bet. He writes slightly different approach. He says also there's two components, but the first component he doesn't say is based on the mitzvah of Zechirat Amalek. He says based on the Gemara in Masechet Megillah that says that on Purim, when you read the Megillah, you fulfill the halacha of Dorshin halachot beoto hayom. You have to speak Torah about that holiday. Every holiday you have to speak about. You have 30 days beforehand to speak about that holiday. And on Purim, you fulfill that on Purim itself by speaking about the Megillah. It's a mitzvah. That means the Megillah is a mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Women are exempt in Talmud Torah. So he says there's two halachot when you listen to Megillah. There's the mitzvah of Kriyat of Talmud Torah, and there's the mitzvah of Pirsum Hanes. So once again, women have the obligation. Women have the obligation of Pirsum Hanes, but that they could hear. That they could hear. Nevertheless, they don't have that obligation of mikram of Talmud Torah, because women are patur in Talmud Torah, so they only have a obligation to hear the nes. Then he says it could be also that in Mikra Megillah we fulfill the aspect of Hallel when you read the Megillah. Kriyata zehululta. Maybe women are patur in the Hallel part, but not in Pirsum Hanes. So we said a couple of different approaches to this. I'll say one last approach is the Brisker Rav brought down in Sefer Kutras Megillah, who he says the obligation of Af Henayut Beoto Hanes is not a ironclad obligation like men have. Men have the obligation because they were mitaken a mitzvah de Rabbanan of listening to the Megillah. Midivrei Kabbalah, to listen to the Megillah. And that's a time-bound obligation. Women are exempt from time-bound obligation. So you want to obligate them because of Afenayu Beoto Hanes. Okay, that makes them chayav in just listening, says the Bahag, not so much as making it as part of the mitzvah. So we mentioned, if you've noticed, we mentioned 4 different approaches. The first approach, why women are, in explaining the Bahag, the first approach that women are only chayav in Shmi'ah is because they're patur from Mechyat Amalek. Another approach is they're patur from Talmud Torah. Another approach is because they're patur from Halel. Another approach is Aven Hayu Be'oto Hanes is a lighter obligation that you only have to hear through Shmi'ah. Now, what would be the halacha? What would be the ramifications in halacha? Women also come to hear the Megillah. But the Rama says like this. The Rama in Siman Taf Resh Petet Seif Bet says, V'yesh omrim, and some say, Shanashim ena motziim et hanashim. Women cannot, the Shulchan Aruch writes this, that women cannot exempt men from their obligation. This is the opinion of the Bahag. And Rabbi Baruch Toledano writes in his Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, based on the Kaf HaChaim, that up to a point, that if a man doesn't have anybody to read the Megillah for him besides a woman, so he could listen to the woman read the Megillah, but afterwards, if he has an opportunity to hear it from a man, he should hear it over again. To fulfill the opinion of the Bahag that a woman cannot exempt a man from Kirat Megillah. But a woman could exempt another woman from Kirat Megillah. So let's say there's only 2 women around, so a woman could exempt another woman. Nevertheless, and this is going to be a very important point for you here nowadays, that people started these women's minyanim for listening to the Megillah. So it's against the halacha. Because the Shari Tzion writes over here in Sifkatan Tedvav, based on the Korban Netanel, and the Poskim, Rabbi Baruch Toledano also brings us, and others, Nashim Rabot en ha'isha motzim dezila behu milta. One lady to exempt many other ladies in Kriyat HaMegillah is not allowed, because it is not proper for a woman to take such a public stance like that in front of other women, to read the Megillah in such a way. Zila behu milta. It's not befitting her kavod. She has more of a respectable kavod in that way. She doesn't take those types of public positions, and that's why you're going to tell me in other public positions they do take nowadays. Different subject, not discussing that now. But that's what the Sharat Tzion and the Poskim bring. That that a woman shouldn't be motzi nashim rabot. How much is rabot? I'm not sure, but it's for sure 10. But less than that, I don't know. Now, the Rama writes like this: what's the ramification if a woman can't be motzi a man? So he brings from the Mordechai, which is based on the Bahag. V'yesh omrim, some say, im ha'isha kora le'atzma mevarechet lishmoa Megillah she'ena chayevet b'kriyah. If a woman reads the Megillah, she should make a bracha lishmoa. In other words, we don't make that bracha. We say the bracha mikra Megillah, right? By a woman, she says lishmoa Megillah. Why? Because it's based on the Mag. So it's a different nusach even. So this is actually fascinating, up to a point that it will make certain nafkaminot. For example, let me mention to you. As I mentioned, there was a minhag in Morocco, particularly, that women would be more lenient in not listening to the Megillah during the day. Now, this is one of the few minhagim that when I write in my book Magen Avot, I couldn't find a good answer for this. I couldn't find a good yishuv. And up to a point that I write, that was the minhag, and I write on the bottom, tzarechiyun. It's difficult to understand. There's a Sefer Yalkut Yosef that came out, and he on Mikra Megillah, the Yalkut Yosef that from Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita, and he writes, I don't understand how the Magen Avot writes this halacha that women didn't listen to the Megillah during the day. It's against halacha, and he shouldn't have written it. So my answer to that is that I write also that I don't understand it. But this minhag was based on very great people. Rav Chaim Misas, I actually visited his kever a few months ago in the city of Meknes. Rav Chaim Misas was the rabbi of Rabbi Baruch Toledano. He writes in Leket HaKemach, Siman Kuf Nuzayin, that this was the minhag, and he got it already from Rabbi Yaakov Berdugo. These were great rabbanim. Rabbi David Mesas, brought down in the Maim Chaim Siman Shin, all wrote this minhag, and it seems to be that it evolved because women were very busy during the day, and they were being osek mina mitzvah, patur mina mitzvah. And I get into a whole discussion. It could be that according to some poskim, the Kriya of the night was the main, not the Kriya of the day, but that wouldn't make so much of a difference because at the end of the day, she's still chayiv in the day Megillah. So that's why I left off tzarich iyun. I'm just thinking that it could be that they also relied on the opinion of the Bahag. How do I know that they followed the opinion of the Bahag? The opinion of the Bahag is written in Vayomer Yitzchak, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid, whose yortzeit is this Shabbat, Likutei Dinim Purim Odvav. He writes that when a woman makes the bracha, she makes the bracha lishmoa Megillah, like the Ramah. So it seems to be they were choshesh like the Shita of the Bahag. So since they were choshesh Shita of the Bahag, it's not as much of an obligation as a men's obligation, right? We said that according to the Bahag, there's not two components in the Megillah, there's only one. So it could be because it was a lesser obligation and they were very busy during the day, they relied on it. Which leads that nowadays, Baruch Hashem, women have things more organized and they're able to get things together. And the whole tour is because they were busy. Nowadays, really, if especially women who work all day, so they find time to do that. So on Purim also, even though they're busy, they should find time to go hear Mikra Megillah. So it's strong. So even though there was such a minhag in those days, but definitely nowadays, women should listen to the Megillah at night and during the day. Now, what bracha should they make? So the Ramah says to make a bracha lishmoa Megillah, and that is how Vayomer Yitzchak writes. Nevertheless, the Shirut Utshuvot leYitzchak Reach writes that a woman should make a bracha for a lady al Mikra Megillah, and there are different minhagim. So really, if a woman wants to make the bracha, let's say her husband is reading for her at home, she makes the bracha lishmoa Megillah. If the man wants to make a bracha for al Mikra Megillah, he has what to rely on. He has what to rely on as well. Now, one final halacha, and this I'll end off with, is that there are some women, the Ben Ish Chai brings, that they wouldn't make a bracha. The woman wouldn't make a bracha. Why wouldn't they make a bracha? Because it seems to be from the different sources that bring this minhag down is because even though women are obligated, but it would be very hard for them to concentrate. Imagine, women didn't go to Bet Yaakov in those days. A lot of them didn't know how to read. So they said, yes, I'm listening. They're going to listen to the whole Megillah. They're going to space out in the middle. They're going to miss some words. You have to hear every single word. It's very hard to do that. So women wouldn't make a bracha. Which, again, if that's the case, even though the Sefer Yafil Lev, which is Rav Palaji, writes that women wouldn't make a bracha, and so too the Ben Ish Chai in Parashat Tetzaveh Ot Aleph says that women wouldn't make a bracha, but that's based on the reason that it's that they wouldn't know. But if nowadays they know what they're doing, definitely that should be the proper approach, that a woman should make the bracha. I believe that Rav Ovadia Yosef and Chazon Ovadia on Ilchot Purim says this as well, and therefore the halacha is that even though they don't make a bracha at the end of the Megillah, because that was only nitkan for when they hear it in a minyan, and if they hear it in a minyan, that's a different question. But if they're saying it on their own, they make the bracha, the first bracha of Lishmoa Megillah. So that's the bottom line, that when a woman wants to hear a Megillah from her husband, she has two options: or to make a bracha Lishmoa Megillah, or her husband can say for her the bracha of Al Mikra Megillah. And when she and she should actually say the bracha if she knows that she's going to follow the whole thing. That should be the proper minhag. And they should listen to the Megillah at night and during the day. Chazak u'baruch. Very good. Baruch.